Hello all. So, some breaking news. Today you may be aware that the court in Scotland said that prorogation was in fact done illegally by the Prime Minister. Here we have an article from the Mail which gives us a bit of an update on this. So, boost for Boris Johnson as English judges say that PM's Parliament shutdown cannot be legally challenged hours after it was deemed illegal by Scottish court. How interesting. High Court says decision to prorogue Parliament was political and not a matter for the courts. It goes back a little bit. Let's see. It's quite a long article. I won't cover it all, but let's have a look at some of the points. Boris Johnson received a major boost over his highly controversial decision to shut down Parliament ahead of Brexit today, as senior judges said it could not be legally challenged. After the Prime Minister's divisive move to prorogue the Commons for 5 weeks, sparking Remainer uproar, was deemed illegal by judges in Scotland, the High Court in London revealed that it viewed the situation completely differently. In giving their reasons for throwing out a case brought by Remainer businesswoman Gina Miller, justices in London said that the decision, which closed Parliament down on Monday, was purely political and therefore not a matter for the courts. The ruling will calm Brexiteer nerves ahead of a dramatic legal showdown at the Supreme Court on Tuesday, where the UK's highest legal authority will have to decide which judicial decision is the right one. Miss Miller's claim, which was supported by former Prime Minister Sir John Major, Shadow Attorney General Baroness Chakrabarti and Scottish and Welsh governments, was dismissed last Friday, but a bench led by Lord Chief Justice Burnett delivered their ruling at a brief hearing in London on Wednesday. In their judgment, they stated, "We concluded that the decision of the Prime Minister was not justiciable," meaning capable of challenge. "It is not a matter for the courts." They added, "The Prime Minister's decision that Parliament should be prorogued at the time and for the duration chosen, and the advice given to Her Majesty to do so in the present case, were political. They were inherently political in nature, and there are no legal standards against which to judge their legitimacy." So it says, an Edinburgh court decided that prorogation was unlawful because the Prime Minister's intention had been to stymie scrutiny of his Brexit policy, not to pave the way for new legislative programme as he claimed. So, the shock outcome sets the stage for a titanic showdown at the Supreme Court next week, with the risk that the Queen will be dragged into the constitutional crisis. Well, this is all getting pretty disgraceful. It's going to the courts, and one court saying it's not down to them, this is purely political. Goes on to say, as MPs demanded the Houses be recalled immediately, some staged protests by tweeting selfies of themselves sitting in the Commons chamber. How very clever. Rebel ringleader Dominic Grieve said Mr Johnson must resign if he misled the Queen about his motives, while David Lammy accused him of deceiving the monarch. This is all after the initial ruling this morning in Scotland, obviously. And then it goes on. Meanwhile, Union Baron Len McCluskey made the extraordinary suggestion that Mr Johnson should be put under citizen's arrest. Well, nothing more idiotic than I've ever heard, but there you go. I'm sure there's a bit more idiotic in here. Downing Street denied that the PM had misled the Queen, pressed repeatedly by journalists on the allegation. A spokesman said, "I think I'm fairly clear with the reasons for prorogation have been consistent throughout." Go on. Yes, look, Joanna Cherry described the ruling as historic and fantastic. That was the Scottish decision, not the English courts, let me remind you. Right, Judge Lord Doherty dismissed a challenge against the planned prorogation at the Court of Session last Wednesday, you might recall that, saying it is for politicians and not the courts to decide. But a panel of 3 judges in Edinburgh overturned that decision. So they are saying all three First Division judges have decided that the PM's advice to the the Queen, is justiciable, that it was motivated by the improper purpose of stymieing Parliament, and that it, and what has followed from it, is unlawful. So essentially the court here is deciding what somebody's motivations for doing something was. That's very interesting. They've decided what... that seems insane to me anyway. At the hearing, Lord Calloway told the court, "We are of the opinion that the advice given to the government by the government to Her Majesty the Queen was unlawful, and the prorogation itself was unlawful." A UK government spokesman said, "We are disappointed with the decision and will appeal to the Supreme Court." So that's what's happening next week. Look forward to that. Yeah, that did sound a bit sarcastic, didn't it? Right. And in an incendiary jibe, Number 10 source told The Sun, "We note that last week the High Court in London did not rule that prorogation was unlawful. The legal activists chose the Scottish courts for a reason." This remark, or the remark, was quickly disowned by the PM's aides, but SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon said, "This is pitiful, pathetic and desperate from Number 10. And I think most of us agree. We've heard enough of what Nicola Sturgeon says, to be honest. We don't care anymore. Former Justice Secretary David Gauke said, "It is neither responsible nor acceptable for sources in Number 10 to accuse judges of political bias. Criticism of this type from within government undermines the independence of the judiciary and therefore the rule of law." Now, looking at that, I don't think the government has accused anybody of political bias. I think it was just suggesting it's there. Is it possible? That's down for the courts to decide, literally, isn't it? So here we go, a bit of defence. Tory MP Henry Smith told Mail Online, "I think the Scottish court decision is a highly political and actually very dangerous, because the courts shouldn't be passing judgments on parliamentary matters, and certainly issues that are the subject of the PM's prerogative." Good point. The courts should be blind to party politics. The courts are not there to do the SNP's bidding. Now that does seem a bit harsh. I don't think the court is doing that, but it certainly looks fairly political. We're going to see some disagreements coming up. Should be very interesting. Another Conservative Brexiteer said the sort of language that is being used is remarkably political. It does look political. And then we hear what Corbyn said. Oh, about the Scottish decision again. This article seems to go back and forth between the two. It's a landmark ruling when a court, this time in Scotland, rules that it is unlawful to prorogue Parliament. "We did everything we could to prevent the prorogation. That is actually shutting down Parliament, which is what the Prime Minister has done in order to prevent questioning and debate right through to the middle of October." Well, again, so we're looking at Jeremy Corbyn ascribing the motivation of Boris Johnson doing that as one way, and Boris Johnson claims it's another way. So can we really ever find out what the real motivation for the prorogation was? I think all we can agree on is that prorogation is legal and it's a common thing done by government. Yes, the timing is a bit dodgy, but it's legal. The legality is there. Anyway, so yes, if necessary, prevent a deal, a crash out of the European Union at the end of October. I think we've had enough of what he says, to be honest. So yes, here we go. Lord Chief Justice Lord Burnett, Master of the Rolls Sir Terence Etherton, and President of the Queen's Bench Division Dame Victoria Sharp delivered their ruling at a brief hearing on Wednesday. That's today. In their judgment, they stated, "We concluded that the decision of the Prime Minister was not justiciable. It's not a matter for the courts." Actually, I think a lot of this text is just flipping repeated. You know what I mean? Anyway, here you go. Kevin Brennan and Jonathan Reynolds went to the Commons chamber today, even though it's closed. I do that a lot when I go to work. Just go for the hell of it. Anyway, let's see. Okay, I think we've gone through this. Do you want to hear what Keir Starmer said? No, I don't, frankly, either. And there you go. That's just a quote. I think I'm going to put that somewhere. Speaking at the TUC conference in Brighton, Mr McCluskey told Sky News, "My advice to the Prime Minister is don't go up to Scotland. You're liable to face citizen's arrest." Oh my goodness. What is it coming to? So, I think we'll end it there, guys. Oh, Jerry Corbyn. I think we'll end it there, guys. I just wanted to get that news out. Hopefully, you've got this news now, and you're feeling a bit better if you're a Brexiter. And hopefully, the Remainers are a little bit worried today about this ruling at the High Court, the Supreme Court. So, thanks for the view, everybody. Like, subscribe, share if you appreciate what we do.